Përshëndetje të dashur dëgjues, mirë se erdhët edhe këtë të shtu në emisionin Hyjnesha, si zakonisht me ju jam unë Elvana Shala, e sonte do të kemi një nga intervistat më të veçanta të gjithë edicioneve të këtij emisioni, sepse do të kemi një mysafire me famë ndërkombëtare, e cila është një nga zërat më të fuqishëm të aktivizmit dhe të drejtave të njeriut në Francë. Me mua dhe me ju sonte është Shanley Clemot Mclaren. Welcome.
Hello, thank you very much.
Very nice to have you here. Tell me, first of all, how do you feel in Kosovo since this is the first visit of you here?
It's my first time here in Kosovo. I'm here since almost a week, and it has been amazing. Met loads of people, loads of NGOs, and I've discovered Pristina as well. And yeah, it's been amazing.
Thank you so much for being here. For the Albanian audience, I'm going to read shortly your biography so they may have the opportunity to know more who you are. Për të gjithë dëgjuesit e Radio Kosovës, siç e shihni, intervista do të zhvillohet në gjuhën angleze, ndërkohë që ju do dëgjoni përkthimin simultant në audio. Unë do të lexoj shkurt një biografi të saj dhe gjithë veprimtarinë e saj të jashtëzakonshme që ka bërë në botë. Shanley Clemot Mclaren është një aktiviste feministe ndërkombëtare dhe eksperte të drejtave digjitale, e angazhuar fuqishëm në ndërthurjen midis barazisë gjinore dhe mjedisit digital. Ajo është e njohur për angazhimin e saj kundër dhunës kibernetike ndaj grave, veçanërisht kundër ngacmimeve, gjuhës së urrëties dhe bullizmit digital. Përmes punës së saj advokuese dhe kërkimore, Shanley promovon parimin se të drejtat digjitale janë të drejtat të njeriut, duke theksuar nevojën për politika gjithëpërfshirëse dhe mbrojtje ligjore në epokën digjitale. Shanley Clemot ka bashkëpunuar me organizata ndërkombëtare, institucione publike dhe platforma digjitale për të rritur ndërgjegjësimin mbi sigurinë online, barazinë gjinore dhe fuqizimin e grave në teknologji. So this is your short biography beside all the great work that you are doing internationally on digital rights. But beside coming to this professional area of you, I would like to know more about how Shanley Clemot Mclaren was when she was a child.
Wow, that's a big question. How I was when I was a child. So I grew up in Paris, in the suburbs of Paris. I was brought up by a French dad, and my mother is Scottish and Australian, so she's not French. And they actually met when she was studying in Paris, and then she stayed, and then I was there. And yeah, so I grew up in Paris. I have a little sister as well. She's 4 years younger than me. And yeah, I guess I had a very nice childhood. And yeah, basically.
Yeah. Shanley, what was the defining moment in your life that led you toward activism for women's rights and the digital space? Why you choose to work on this area?
So actually, while growing up, I think, like sometimes I realized that there were like situations with inequalities, unfair treatments. And I think that, when I grew up, I think it's something that I felt was not correct, like when facing, harassment situation or when, like stuff would happen, it would just feel awkward to me. And I think it was like little ripple moments that made me realize that, I needed to fight against inequalities. But I'd say that my eyes really opened when there was the Me Too movement. It can sound a bit cliche, but it's what happened. The Me Too movement began in 2017, if I'm correct. And, it started in the US with the Harvey Weinstein case, and then the Hollywood cases, and then we had very high-profile cases with the Me Too movement. And then little by little, it traveled around the world. It reached us in Europe. And I'd be curious to know also how it was in Kosovo, if there was a Me Too movement, how it was, And in France, it arrived, and the press played a huge role at that time. We're in 2017. I was 18 years old. I was a high school student in my last year. And when I saw that arriving, it put words into all the injustice situation that I've seen before, which is sexism. It's putting a name on a systemic discrimination.
Have you been abused on that before?
I think
That made you be much more involved in this?
I think, as women, we have statistics in France that say that 100% of women have been through a form of sexual violence.
Yeah.
Whether sexual harassment, street harassment,
Yeah.
sexual violence. 100% is the data we have in France. So I've been through it as well. And my case is not individual. It's part of a collective story, unfortunately. And when the Me Too movement arrived, I realized that my story, I was not alone, actually. And that what I've been through is not something individual. It's not my story. It's not my trauma. It's not what I've been through personally in my own individual cases. Actually, that's when I realized that many other more young girls, young women have experienced the exact same thing. And that's when I became aware of the fact that sexism is it's part of a system. It's systemic discrimination. And when I talk about my activism and when the Me Too movement arrived, it felt like a rebirth to me, because from that day onwards, it's something, it's as if I had just woken up.
Yeah. I want to stop a little bit here. How did your journey evolve from being an individual voice to becoming an internationally recognized activist?
So it's been a long path, a long path. Like we were talking about my childhood and the fact that I didn't really know what sexism was. I just knew something was wrong. Then the Me Too movement arrived. I became aware of everything. And when I became aware of everything, it made me angry. And then my eyes were opened and I saw that there were sexual harassment cases in my school where I studied.
Can you give us an example for this?
Yeah. So, for example, in classrooms, there were boys that were sexually harassing girls in the class. For example, they would go to, the board, and the girls would go to the board, to answer some questions or to do exercises.
Yeah.
And the boys would be like, oh, she's got big ass. Or they would say very insulting things towards her, but it's sexual harassment. And unfortunately, the teachers would, not really pay attention. Sometimes it was online as well, taking pictures of the girls when they would go do the exercises at the board, or, taking pictures of them when they're walking in the playground without their consent, with humiliating messages. And that was on Snapchat. And much more happened, actually, but there was a lack of reaction from the school. And so all of that made me angry, because all of that was during the Me Too movement. And that's when very suddenly I was not an activist. I was a normal citizen. And very suddenly I felt the need to act. It was like when you're hungry. I had hunger. And I
do something to stop all of this.
something to stop all of this. So I went to see my friends and I said, let's block our school. And this can be very shocking for non-French people, but French people, we block our schools a lot. And it's a way of protesting, and it's very democratized. It happens a lot. And we've seen our schools blocked for numerous reasons, for political reasons, strikes.
So you have blocked only your school or the whole schools in Paris?
So only my school.
Okay.
But
it started with your...
Yes.
Okay.
So I blocked my school. It was an anti-sexism blockade. And it's the first time in France. After that, we had huge press coverage. The biggest press, Le Monde, Le Parisien, they came to the school, which is not in Paris. It's in the suburb. So it's a bit far away. So they actually came to the school to cover this. And I remember doing my first media interventions, and I remember we were taking the mic, girls, and we had our own Me Too movement in the school. We took the mic and we spoke about what we've been through. And for most of us, it was the first time talking. This is important.
How did you feel?
So
what do you remember from that time?
I felt I think I was shocked. I was very happy, but I was as well a bit shocked because it was a collective energy,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very young girls taking over, taking action, taking the mic, and being loud. You know, we often say to girls, "Don't be too loud," or
Mm-hmm.
"Don't talk too much." But that day, we changed it. Oh, we had the mic. We were speaking loud, and I feel proud as well because after that, um, it led to a movement in France where other schools were blocked
Mm-hmm.
or other actions in schools, anti-sexism actions took place.
Yeah.
So it was the beginning of a kind of movement in France. And a second thing which I'm proud of is the fact that we managed to put young people's and young girls' voices
Yeah.
in the public debates of the Me Too movement, which wasn't the case before. We were erased as girls from the public debate. Whereas paradoxically, sexual harassment, the peak in sexual harassment is 14 years old in France. And why weren't we included in that public debate when
Yeah.
they're the most targeted at 14?
Yeah.
And why weren't we included when education is key to combat sexism as well?
Yeah, that's true. Shanley, on all of this story, I'm very much interested to know what was the reaction of the government of France after all of this activism that you started in such an early age.
So right after this feminist blockade, because it had huge press coverage, it went national.
Yeah.
It went national. And I remember journalists calling me from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. It was huge. And so very rapidly, the French public authorities reacted. And I remember the first one to react was the former French Minister for Gender Equality. Her name is Marlène Schiappa. And I remember she sent me an email saying, "We want to meet you." And so I came with two other friends. I went to the ministry, but before that, we didn't want to go to that meeting with empty hands. So we came with a school reform because we've worked on a school reform with teachers, students across France.
Yeah.
To have something collective and ready. So we handed this over to her. And after that, this led to the minister to reintroduce a law on education for gender equality in schools. Normally, in the law in France, we're supposed to have education for gender equality from a very young age, like sexual gender equality education, but it's not applied. So after the meeting, she reintroduced it into the public debate. But I think the French people were not very ready for it, so she didn't pursue because the French people were not feeling comfortable with that. Actually, they were like, "Please protect our kids."
Have you been prejudiced from the people?
Not really, actually. Well, like when I did my first medias in that case, I just remember bad comments on the, like Facebook posts, Twitter posts published by big medias, that would publish extract from what I would say in the press.
Yeah.
And I remember very bad comments. I was 18, and at 18, I received messages telling me that I was a whore, telling me that I was ugly, that I looked like a trans person, telling me that, everything on what I look like.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it was older men. And I'm like, don't you have anything better to do with your life than to criticize an 18 years old appearance? This is the bad comments I had. But other than that, I had big support from the French population.
And how did you cope with the emotional and psychological pressure that often accompanies activism, especially after all what you have done at that period?
So at that period, I'd say psychologically it was very tough because I've never had media training. I didn't even know what sexism meant a few months before that. So I really dived into activism in a very sudden way. And that wasn't planned at all. It was just something natural and very sudden. So I think I felt a bit overwhelmed by the situation. I was taking care of the situation. I had big control. But sometimes it can be a bit heavy as an activist as well.
Of course.
Because you're facing a lot of demands.
Of course.
A lot of media intervention, French public authorities wanting to meet you working on a school reform. And as an activist, sometimes it can feel a bit lonely, but it's important to surrender yourself by people, because working collectively is the only way forward.
Yeah. And when we speak about this, what has been the most difficult personal challenge you have faced as a result of your public position at that time? Since from a very young lady, you became the most influential person in such a short period, which means that's not so easy also to accept for yourself.
So the question would be, what was the biggest challenge for me at the time?
Yes.
I think the biggest challenge was to be respected. Because I remember I was receiving loads of support, but there was backlash as well. And that's also something when you're an activist and you launch something, an action where you denounce something. There's that moment where you feel empowered to do it and you need to do it and you receive a lot of support. But there's also the doubt, constantly the doubt. If you denounce something which is a taboo, you doubt because you put a mirror in front of society. It's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
And so there's always room for doubts. And I think, like the backlash that comes behind it can be a bit tough. At the time, I remember teachers that were very unhappy with what I did, despite others supporting me. And I remember hateful comments as well.
Wow.
And so I think
which means
was to be respected.
You were trying to fight sexism and online harassment, but you still were facing with that.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, at the time, I was facing online abuse, and I even faced a disinformation campaign. And I was 18. I faced a disinformation campaign by a group of people, a group of men who posted a thread on Twitter saying that that I had some kind of hidden identity and that I was in reality a very dangerous person. I'm like, what the hell? That is so not true. This is disinformation. But at the time, I didn't really focus on it. I remember my former boyfriend who told me, okay, now you're becoming like a public figure. You need to protect your data. And that's when I realized I needed to protect my data,
your
my
privacy.
identity, my privacy, because that disinformation campaign, they would use my private images.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, I need to protect myself. But at the time, I wasn't aware of what cyber sexism was, of what online gender-based violence was. That was only like a few years after. So in 2020, that my activism took a new turn with Stop Fisha and with, everything, all my fight on gender digital rights.
Yeah. Shanley, when you remember all this journey that you started, we said in such an early age, have you ever considered stopping back, and what was motivated you to keep going?
I think what has one, I think I need 1 minute to think about that question actually. So the question is, what if there were any times where I thought of stopping, right?
Stepping back.
Yeah. So there's a few times where I thought of stepping back. And I think it's mainly for two reasons. The first one, which is being burnt out, of course.
Of course.
Because as an activist, it's hard to be respected. And there's a lot of pressure as well. And there's a lot of work as well. And sometimes you just, carry the burden of a society. And it's too much.
It's not easy.
And it's not easy. And it's not healthy as well. So it's really important to balance your work.
Of course.
And I think this is something I struggled to do for quite a long time, to find a balance, some nuances, to say no to some opportunities as well, and just take it slowly. Because if you burn out your energy, then you don't have any more left, and you cannot carry the fight anymore. So taking care of yourself is key in activism.
Yes.
And I'd say the second challenge, the second thing that maybe, led me sometimes to think, okay, maybe I should step back. It's when you face criticism as well from fellow activists, fellow colleagues as well. When the people who you're surrounded with, start to turning their backs on you, I'd say, because, we need like solidarity, we need supporting mechanisms, we need our communities, and yeah, I think these are like the two times.
Shanley, thank you so much for explaining all this journey that you did for the human rights in France and not only. We are going to speak about the life and work balance in the second part of this radio show, since now we want to start this special radio show with music, of course, for all the audience that are hearing us. Të dashur dëgjues të Radio Kosovës, siç e shihni jemi duke realizuar një nga intervistat më të veçanta të këtij edicioni të emisionit Hyjnesha me aktivisten me famë botërore Shanley Clemot Mclaren, për kthimin e së cilës ju jeni duke e dëgjuar në aspektin simultan. Të shkoha për të gjithë ata që janë duke na dëgjuar, natyrisht për audiencën shqiptare, që të nisim këtë emision me një pikë muzikore, më pas kthehemi me pjesën e dytë të intervistës, ku do të flasim më shumë për balancimin e jetës së saj mes punës dhe jetës private, meqense e dëgjuat se ka pasur një presion të jashtëzakonshëm me gjithë aktivizmin që ajo e ka filluar në një moshë shumë të re. Qëndroni me valët Radio Kosovës, rikthehemi vetëm pas pak. Të dashur dëgjues Radio Kosovës, jemi rikthyer sërish në studio, po ju shoqëron emisioni Hyjnesha, një nga edicionet më speciale të këtij emisioni, ku jemi duke intervistuar për herë të parë në valët Radio Kosovës dhe është për herë të parë në vizitën e saj zyrtare në Kosovë, aktivistja me famë botërore për të drejtat digjitale në aspektin global, Shanley Clemot Mclaren. Kemi folur në pjesën e parë të emisionit për gjithë jetën e saj të fëmirisë dhe mënyrën se si ka nisur gjithë aktivizmin për të bërë pastaj zëri më i rëndësishëm ndërkombëtar për këtë temë, ndërkohë që në pjesën e dytë do të fokusohemi tek balancimi i jetës së saj mes punës dhe familjes. Shanley, how do you feel in this second part?
I feel very good. I feel ready.
You feel ready?
Ready.
Thank you so much for being here. It's really an honor for all the team of the Radio Kosovo.
Thank you very much.
So now we are going to speak about a little bit about life and work balance. Shanley, how do you manage to balance your personal life with such an intense public and professional commitment?
When you work in human rights, I think you know it as well. It's very hard to stop thinking about work, to stop thinking about human rights for several reasons. First of all, when you work in human rights, and like I've said before, there's this wake up. When you wake up and when you have your eyes wide open, right? And when you start activism, working for human rights, it's like glasses that are put on your nose, and you cannot get rid of those glasses ever again in your life after that. So it's really hard sometimes to take those glasses off, actually, because it's really hard to disconnect from work. And so I'd say this is a first thing. And a second thing is, it's really important to distinguish and to put limits between work, personal life, and to not talk about work once your, hours are finished. And, to take care of yourself outside of work and not try to do something else,
What do you especially do to take care about yourself beside the work?
Well, I'd say I spend time.
What is your secret to keep yourself like quiet, focused, and balance the life, work, and personal life?
I think there's no magical recipe, actually. I think it's a work in progress for myself, and I think for a lot of people working on human rights and activism as well. Me, I'd say that I, for example, have two phones. So work phone, personal phone, very important. I have clear hours. I work from like 9:30 to like 6:30, and after 6:30, do not talk about work with me, And so it's about putting boundaries, and outside those boundaries, when 6:30 p.m. is passed, I
You are
spend
not
time with my
online anymore.
friends. Well, I
For
try not to be
people.
online, you know. I try not to be online actually. Like I try to avoid social media for sure because social media, there's like the content, the human rights content.
They burn you a lot of
So it's work,
energy.
yeah, right? So I try to slow down on social media a bit and I spend time with I reconnect with the real world,
Yeah.
So be with my friends, with my family, with my partner as well, and try to go out and do very simple things. Have hot chocolate outside, like this.
Yeah.
It's very simple things, right?
Yeah.
But that's what we need as human beings.
Of course.
Yeah.
So let's stop a little bit to your family. What role do your family or close circle play in supporting your work?
I think my family, my close circles, like family, friends, partner, they're my support system. And they have helped me be strong. I know I'm strong by myself, but having them comforts me and brings me, a support space actually, who I can reach out to, and they're very supportive. My little brother, he's 14 years old. So he's in this very complicated age, at 14. But he always tells me, Shanley, can I come with you with during your interventions? I want to raise awareness as well. And I'm like, okay, why not? So my little brother, he's a big, big supporter.
Does this mean that he wants to follow your steps as well in the future, being an activist?
I don't think I think he's very different. So like my little brothers, I have 4 little brothers and sisters.
Okay.
And they're all very different from me.
So which means you are 5 children, right?
Yes.
Okay.
No, we're 4. Sorry, we're 4.
4.
So
Okay.
3 little brothers and sisters. I'm the oldest one. And they see me, I think, as a role model, as a big sister, of course. But they're very different from me, and that's very fine. They don't necessarily want to follow my path. I think they see me and they
Do you want to push them or not?
I'd say that I want them to be aware of things, of racism, sexism. So I want them to be aware of their rights. For me, this is fundamental. They have to be aware of their rights. And following my path, I think they don't necessarily want to become activists. They want to support and they support, but I prefer remaining, in kind of like the backstage.
Wonderful. So when you are not an activist, who is Shanley in her everyday life?
Shanley in her everyday life, I'd say it's just me who likes shopping. And it's just me, liking chill moments, hot chocolate, coffee, and it's just very simple actually. Yeah. And seeing my friends, I have like a small group of friends around me, but I also have friends across the globe.
Yes.
So I have my small friends, my small group in Paris, and then I have friends a little bit across the globe in Italy and Iraq. So I like calling them, catching up with them. I love traveling as well.
Since you have traveled a lot
Yes.
during your life in many places in the world, which one is the best one that you have visited from your perspective?
That's tough.
And why?
That's a hard question because each travel is like different. So I love all of them actually. I loved my staying here. I loved when I was in India in October. I was in Brazil in August, September. They were all very special to me because I learn all the time. And what makes it special is to know the people there, Like, of course, you're a tourist, but, making friends with people in India and Brazil here as well, that's key, I think.
So, can I ask you a little bit about Kosovo and its people?
Yeah.
How did you find them?
Very welcoming, very welcoming. And yeah, I think very friendly as well. And I felt very safe as well, and comfortable, I'd say. So it has been very welcoming, very friendly, and very inclusive.
And let's stop a little bit here in Kosovo. How do you see the gender equality and digital rights in our country, since we still remain to be the newest country in Europe?
So I'm not a specialist of gender equality in Kosovo, but I did my research, of course.
Yes,
before
that's why I'm
coming here.
asking.
And I've met loads of NGOs as well this week. You know, I've met you, I've met other people, I've met the Kosovo Women's Network, I met UN Women here. So I met loads of people, and I managed to get insights little by little. And I know there's a report by UN Women here that says that more than 40% of women and girls in Kosovo have experienced online violence. And I think there's something very specific with Kosovo, and that's the fact that, you know, there's the issue with non-recognition of Kosovo sometimes.
Yes.
And we know, for example, that Meta, which owns Facebook, Instagram, does not recognize Kosovo. That has an impact on recognizing a whole population's rights.
Which means we have to start a campaign together for Meta to recognize Kosovo as well.
Definitely. And actually, even the president of Kosovo apparently has recently talked about the lack of content moderation in Albanian language. So there's two challenges.
Yes.
First of all, the non-recognition. Secondly, the lack of moderation in the Albanian language. And that creates a double danger for women and girls here in Kosovo.
Yeah, that's true. And what do you think, what can we do in this case?
I think campaigning is good. Laws, we need laws as well. Globally, it's a need. There's data that was launched recently that said that only 40% of countries in the world have laws on online violence. 60% of countries do not have it. I'm not sure of the legal framework in Kosovo, but I met NGOs who said that there were maybe no legal frameworks on online violence here as well. That's maybe something we need to work on as well. And maybe the work that you will be doing or that NGOs here will be doing. But there is need for laws and also trainings, of course, of police officers, etc. But there's also this Telegram group, you know, like Alb King, which we talked about, and which was very problematic, you know, and it could have been, there could have been a strong sentence, which would have sent a clear message to society. Don't do that because that is not good, right? That's dangerous. But instead there were, you know, like small fines.
Yeah.
And maybe that could be used as an example to make improvement as well in the future. And you know, like I'm talking about Kosovo because that's what I heard, but in France we have a lot of issues as well.
Yeah,
we have a lot happening and we have a lot to work on as well. So it's actually, you know, it's an emerging problematic, and I think all countries across the world are trying to find the tools. What are the tools that work? What are the tools that don't work? You know, and figuring it out.
Yeah, Shanley, let's stop a little bit to the topic that you spoke last week at the high-level diplomatic discussion, diplomacy for human rights. What do you think, especially for the marginalized groups, what do you think that is the same situation in France as well when we speak about diplomacy and human rights? Have the state of France chosen diplomacy to support the human rights, especially marginalized groups?
So I used to work for the French Ministry for Foreign Affairs.
Yes, I know.
Worked there for 1 year and a half. And as part of its foreign policy and its diplomacy, they have clear frameworks on defending human rights and women's rights. And
yes, but what is the situation in practice?
So there's a difference between words and
that's why I'm asking.
Always. So we have, you know, we're part of global coalitions. We led UN resolutions on human rights. We have ambassadors. We have ambassador for gender equality, ambassador for human rights, and even ambassador for LGBTQI plus people. And there's not a lot of ambassador for LGBTQI plus people in the world.
Yes.
I think there's like less than 8 or something.
So which means you made a revolution on this as a country.
Well, I think
since this is the first time that I'm hearing that there is a special ambassador for the rights of LGBTIQ community.
And I think there's not a lot in the world, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a very positive thing. But then we do need to put all of this in practice. We have frameworks.
Sure.
Recently, France adopted its new feminist foreign policy. But now it would be interesting to see how it's being implemented And I know they're working like monitoring actually the outcomes of that strategy, of that framework. So I guess we'll have to keep our eyes open and see what will happen. But generally speaking, there is the need, and we've talked about it at the event. You've said it as well, is the fact to go beyond words and start putting words into action, because we are, there's democratic crisis in every parts of the world, and there's backlash as well, and wars as well. And I think now is the time to put diplomacy into action.
That's true. Thank you so much for this part as well. It's time to get back the music in our radio show, and then we'll come back with the third part and the last one on reflecting and inspirational questions and also quotes from you.
Perfect.
Të dashur dëgjues të Radio Kosovës, i rikthehemi sërish muzikës në përfundim të kësaj pjese të dytë të intervistës ekskluzive me Shanley Clemot Mclaren. Ndërkohë që ju mos u largoni nga valët të Radio Kosovës, rikthehemi vetëm pas pak me pjesën e tretë dhe të fundit. Miq të dashur të Radio Kosovës, jemi sërish bashkë në këtë pjesë të tretë të emisionit Hyjnesha në një format komplet ndryshe, sepse kemi një mysafire speciale që ka ardhur nga Franca e që është aktiviste me famë botërore për të drejtat e njeriut me theks të veçantë të drejtat digjitale. Tashmë e keni kuptuar që po flasim me Shanley Clemot Mclaren, e cila po tregon shumë çka nga perspektiva e jetës së saj dhe revolucioni i jashtëzakonshëm që ka bërë në Francë në aspektin e mbrojtjes së të drejtave të njeriut. Shanley, how do you feel in this third part of this radio show?
I feel very good. And you?
I'm perfect and very honored to have you here for the first time. But of course, we think that that's not going to be the last time of your visit here in Kosovo, right?
Of course.
So we would like to have you very soon here again. And actually, I would like to know, what would you say to your younger self at the beginning of this journey, if you go back?
So to my younger self, I think I'd just tell my younger self to believe yourself. Do not doubt, believe yourself. Listen to your inner self, listen to your gut feeling. Because listening to your gut feeling is key. That's that's where your trust builds from. The trust you have within yourself is listening to your gut feeling. So I'd say this would be maybe my advice for my younger self.
Yeah. When you speak about this, was there any moment that you wanted to shut down everything? Have you ever felt so tired that you said to yourself, okay, Shanley, stop everything?
I'd say it happened to me sometimes to, wanting to step back and to stop everything and be like, okay, now it's enough. And I want to stop my activism. I want to, I want to breathe, and live a normal life. Because I'm not, leading a normal life. But I've never put it into practice, actually. And I think I still have a lot of hope. And I think the hope and the strength definitely outbalances that.
Who is your biggest motivational person in your life?
Wow, that's a big question. So this might sound a bit egoistical, but I think my own self.
Wow.
No, because actually, so what I mean is that I have so many sources of inspiration. And my fellow activists across the world, but also people who have closely worked with, journalists as well, who I've met in France a long time ago and who really gave me the courage to continue as well. But I'd say at the end, it's having your solid foundations.
Yes.
And I think my foundations have been built thanks to the stories around me, to the stories of my sisters, of women in my family, women around me, like my support system, and these have built, the roots of my trees. These have built my foundations. When I say it's my own self, because I am the final product of my own identity, but also of all the stories and, that have contributed to my identity and who I am today.
And what is the greatest lesson life and activism have you taught you so far?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
What is the greatest lesson life and activism have taught you so far?
So my biggest lesson that my activism has taught me is to surround yourself and, be in a collective, work collectively. International solidarity is key, just like local community is key.
Yes.
And I'd say to surround yourself, like your closest people, they must be really trustworthy, and you have to be sure of who you're surrounded with, because sometimes you can deal with very serious stuff.
Yeah.
Death threats, stalking, and we need those people to be really here with you and to support you. So have really this small group of trustworthy people who you can count on when you need, actually.
Yes. And when we collect all your journey, how do you define success both in your personal life and in your social mission?
I'd say success can be measured thanks to the outcome of your activism. So, and it can be very individual cases to big collective change.
Yes.
I'd say if we talk about my activism, my path, my journey, success is when I remember a friend of mine, she had her own story and she wanted to talk about it. And I've been supporting her for years for her to be able to publicly speak about it, because it's an important story. And my success was for her one day, I managed to connect her with a journalist. And for the first time she spoke, and I was here with her, behind her, standing behind her and supporting her. This is for me a success story. And it's a small case, individual case.
Of course.
But it's also big changes, such as the school reform I worked on, such as the big feminist digital social movement I led during the
And also you have been
pandemic.
awarded many times.
And I've been awarded as well. Yes.
Most important award.
Yes. I've had the United Nations Young Activist Summit Award last year. I had another award by the daughter of Simone de Beauvoir, who is, one of the world's most feminist icons, and its history as well. So these are like big, important moments that really marked my life and that also mark success.
And the last question for this show, what is your biggest dream
My biggest dream,
that you are working for?
I think I have several.
Okay. Just one for us. Share just one with us.
Maybe, oh geez, that's complicated. I'd say a world where, where there's no wars, where there's no social inequalities, where human rights are respected, because we talk about gender equality, women's rights, the rights of marginalized groups and communities, and also the regulation of social media platforms. But all of this gathers around the same topic, which is the respect of fundamental human rights.
Yeah.
And this would be my dream, a world that upholds, respects, defends, safeguards human rights in all contexts.
Such a strong message.
Yes.
Shanley, thank you so much. This is the end of this interview. I had really a great honor to have you today here, and also to welcome you in the Republic of Kosovo for the first time. On behalf of the Radio Kosovo team and all the people of Kosovo, I wish you all the best. And thank you for everything that you are doing for activism, for human rights, not only in France, but also globally. And we would like to welcome you very soon again in Kosovo and start working together also with young activists in Kosovo.
Thank you very much, Silvana, for having me today and welcome me as well. And it has been a great, great pleasure. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Të dashur dëgjues, kemi qenë kështu në një intervistë ekskluzive me Shanley Clemot Mclaren, aktivisten me famë botërore për të drejtat digjitale në Francë dhe jo vetëm, e cila shpalosi shumë çka ekskluzivisht për dëgjuesit e Radio Kosovës nga jeta e saj e fëmijërisë tek ajo personalja deri tek arritjet e mëdha profesionale që ka bërë në jetën e saj. Me mua Elvanën dhe një Hyjnesh tjetër, bashkë dëgjohemi javën tjetër.